Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing well. Last night was a very fun night, of course. It was the home run derby, and I'm just going to start off. I feel like we just keep getting this scenario. We've gotten to 2 years in the last 3 derbies now where it's like, well, this guy won it, but like the night really belonged to this guy. Like it just keeps happening, and it's kind of annoying because it's like, I don't want to say that the guy that won didn't actually win, but last night was Julio Rodriguez's night, whether he won the derby or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was his showing out party to a national audience, and he hasn't really had that yet necessarily, as it's only his rookie year. But yeah. I mean, everyone found out who he was. Everyone found out who he was last night, and he had 2 very spectacular rounds to start off. And he defeated Corey Seager, and more notably, he defeated Pete Alonso, which was the Derby favorite, winner of the last 2 derbies, and yeah, like really, it's a good thing that he was able to make a name for himself a little bit last night.
Yeah, 32 home runs in the first round. I don't think people at the time realized how crazy that was because he was the very first one to go, and like I think people kind of tend to forget what a good derby round looks like. When we only get to see this once a year, but like I was like, wait, like 32 in the first round, like that's gonna hold up, and it has a chance to beat Pete Alonso if he does it again.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I think it was the second best first round ever behind Pete Alonso last year, who had 35.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah, that was absolutely nuts, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that was very exciting to have his power on display. Yeah, I mean, one of the many tools he possesses being on display, and he will be out in action. I mean, he'll be a reserve, but he'll be out playing at some point tonight as we record.
He could be in another home run derby.
Did
you see this?
What's going on with this?
So it was announced that if the All-Star game ends in a tie, like if it's tied after 9 innings, it will go to a home run derby where the AL and NL will have 3 players go up and each take 3 swings, and the rosters were announced, and at the beginning of the night it looked like such a joke, but now it looks much more legit. So the AL candidates would be Julio Rodriguez, Ty France, and Kyle Tucker, and the AL is like Kyle Schwarber, Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, or something like that. And then when it came out, everyone was like, okay guys, like joke's over, like you can release the actual AL candidates because that's extremely lopsided. But I mean, if Julio's in there, that makes it look a lot better than it did at the beginning of the news break.
For NL, you said it was Soto, Schwarber, and who else?
It was Alonso, Acuna, and Schwarber.
Oh, Alonso, Acuna. So yeah, all Derby candidates or Derby participants, and then yeah, Ty France, Kyle Tucker, Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, Kyle Tucker's got a little bit of pop. Ty France does too. However, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, in this derby there were what, like 2 AL players?
3.
3?
It was yeah, Corey Seager, Jose Ramirez, Julio.
Julio, yeah. And yeah, Jose Ramirez. Um,
By the
yeah,
way, Jose Ramirez hit righty.
yeah, against a righty.
Wasn't ready for that. I was
Yeah,
really hoping after I was like, what if he did this on purpose and then he's just gonna take the time out and switch over to lefty and be like, watch this.
yeah, that would have been very
I was
funny.
really hoping for that, but no, he decided to go righty the whole time. Very interesting. I'm sure someone will ask him about that today.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me wonder like what his home like plate appearances per or at bats per home run are at each side.
Mhm.
It's,
Petriello, I don't know if you were watching the Statcast broadcast last night, but Petriello said his slugging percentage is like 200 points higher when he hits lefty.
um oh yeah, and that's a rate stat. So like
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. Like
seemed very odd, but I don't know. Maybe he just there's definitely a theory out there because I know the Guardians specifically told him not to do it like in the past, like 2019, 2021. Um, and maybe he was just like, I'll do it. I'm gonna do my all to just like put on a decent show, but not make it out of the first round.
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, this year he's hitting 305 with a 1010 OPS against righties, which is when he's the lefty, and 241 with a 756 OPS against lefties, which is when he's a righty.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's very weird. Wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, and I don't like I didn't know what to expect because I never looked at the numbers. Yeah, his numbers were actually different last year. The difference in OPS on righties and lefties was within 20 points of each other.
Mhm.
So maybe it's only a this year thing, but yeah, that's very odd. Like, yeah, because I feel like, yeah, anytime you see a Jose Ramirez home run, it's when he's lefty. But yeah, he went up righty. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but worked out for Juan Soto, who ended up winning the Derby with being pretty consistent the whole way through. How about Albert Pujols getting through the
That
first
was
round?
cool. Well, did you see that controversy?
What was it?
Apparently, in the tiebreaker round between Schwarber and Pujols, ESPN miscounted and missed one of Schwarber's home runs, so it should have been a tie, but Pujols actually advanced.
Huh.
I don't know how much truth there is to that, but it's been being floated out there.
Like in that tiebreaker round, Schwarber also hit 7, but they miscounted.
Yeah,
Oh wow. Yeah. I don't yeah, there are always like there is always a thing where like a home run lands and you just don't see it you just don't see a number change and it's like what happened there?
yeah,
Yeah. I think miscounts happen more frequently than you would realize in those things because there's so many home runs being hit at once,
yeah.
especially
It's hard to
in the clock format.
one of the best, yeah, especially in the clock format, but one of the best changes MLB ever made to anything ever was making the home run derby rule where the next pitch can be thrown when the previous ball starts going down instead of when it lands.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like every derby has been so much better than it ever was in recent memory. Like go back and watch even like the 2016 home run derby. Like remember when we were amazed when Stanton put up 24 home runs in the first round?
right. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we were
yeah,
like that might be one of the best derby performances we've ever seen.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And
And yeah, now it's like what are we talking about?
now we've got our rookie hitting 32 first round, first time ever doing a home run derby.
Yep. Even then,
Um,
like Alonso very casually hit 20
yes, yeah.
or not. Yeah, someone who was it that hit 20? I don't remember. Somebody hit 20 and it was like a very casual round last night,
Um,
like in the first round.
it could have been Seager actually.
It might have been.
Seager wasn't too far off Like
It
he,
might have been Seager, yeah, because I
yeah,
remember being like, he's not gonna do it, but like he did pretty well.
right. Yeah. Yeah, very funny. Um, well, yeah. And yeah, so yeah, Albert Pujols making it through is pretty cool. But it would have been hard for him to win the whole thing.
It's tough because I said beforehand I don't think he's gonna win because I just don't think like his body was going to hold up. And I don't even know how like wrong I was because he had 13 in the first round. He did have an amazing tiebreaker round. I will give him that, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt
Um,
about it.
but like I don't know, 13 in the first round in any round that shouldn't have held up.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, that would have ended up, if not for the tiebreaker round, he would have had the least out of anybody besides Schwarber. Well,
Yeah.
tied with Schwarber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what he did that tiebreaker round, but he just pulled out everything he had. And it was cool. It was awesome.
Yeah. It is also funny to see how much of this relies on the BP pitcher.
I saw a tweet last night. It was like the home run derby comes down to which team has the most accurate bench coach.
Yeah. Like it's a lot of it because you looked at Schwarber's round and I mentioned to you like he was throwing it in game day zone 11. He was throwing it
Yep.
like 4 inches above the strike zone. And Schwarber's like trying to rifle it over the fence, but it's like out of the strike zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was tough. Acuna's pitcher was like throwing him sliders. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, it was yeah. Maybe Acuna asked for that, but still that's pretty funny
What are
to
that'd be
observe.
very funny if he was like, can you throw like I don't know what Acuna's numbers are against sliders off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine you would want like a hanging slider. Like I don't think
Yeah,
he's
for
looking
sure.
for a slot for,
He has
88
a
down
he
and
has a three
away.
run value. He's slugging 394 against them this year, which is not great just in general, but it's good for the fact that it's against sliders.
Right. Well, I remember when Harper was participating back in like 2013,
2013.
2013, like the broadcast was saying that like his dad like threw him cutters, which I get. Like if the ball's coming in on you, like I think guys want the ball coming in on them a little bit, but I guess for Acuna it would be coming away.
Right.
Uh but I mean yeah, maybe he wanted like the idea of a hanging slider because it just I don't know, it looks better.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not, I've never participated in a home run derby.
No.
So I don't know. I don't know what works and what doesn't.
Trying to think what other cool things. I mean, really the big takeaway. We haven't even talked about Juan Soto.
Yeah. Well, it's
Like
like,
we have not mentioned it once.
well, it's funny because it it kind of worked out how a lot of home run derbies work out is like you
Hmm.
just have to be consistent throughout the whole derby.
Yeah. The main takeaway, the one real problem I have with the clock format is that it pretty much relies on an underdog to really steal the show for it to be a good derby. Like Julio was a 6 seed, Pete Alonso was a 5 seed last year. Like he went first in every single round, I think, except for the finals. Trey Mancini was a 6 seed. Um,
Yeah.
like 2019, Vlad Jr. was an 8 seed. Like it
Yeah.
really, Stanton was a 6 seed, I think, the year that he went off in it. Like you have like you just need someone who can go a full round every time to perform well for it to be a good derby. And like I don't know, it does kind of suck when like someone finishes off like when someone beats their opponent with like a minute left on the clock and it's like I want to see him keep hitting. Like
Right. Yeah.
Soto almost did that last night. Like he just kept going after he won, and then eventually, like 10 seconds later, he was like, "I'm just gonna celebrate now."
Yeah. Yeah, that's very funny. But I think you can run into that same problem with the other format
Yeah,
because yeah, if a guy hits 3 home runs and then the higher seeded guy hits 4 with only producing like 3 outs, then
Yeah.
you could run into
Well, I
that
think
problem.
the seating only existed, like the seating used to not exist. It was really just everyone goes in the top like 4 or something, move on.
Oh yeah, there was no, yeah. I remember there not being any seeding at
Yeah.
all.
I think there was the year where there was seating, but it was also outs. I could be wrong because I know there was one year, I think it was 2014, where they changed up the format, but it only lasted for 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was the
yeah, no,
year.
it was, yeah, just, yeah, it was a pool of 8, and you had to be top 4. So yeah, the seeding thing works out. That's much cooler.
Oh, it absolutely is. Like the Derby has been fun. I can't remember the last time the Derby wasn't fun.
Yeah, I like, and
And I also think it's becoming a better product every single year. Like if like even like I'd say the most recent Derby you could go back and watch and be like, wow, it's so much better now is probably 2018.
right, yeah, um, yeah, some fun derbies, and Juan Soto was the winner, and you could argue that that's not the biggest Juan Soto news that's happened in the past week.
I don't think you could argue it. I think it's absolutely not the biggest Juan Soto news of the past week.
As an athletic article came out, um, man, when did it come out? It came out like Thursday or Friday.
Or I was golfing when it came out. Trying to remember when I was golfing. I think it was Saturday.
Okay, Saturday, that Juan Soto rejected a 15-year, $440 million contract from the Nationals, and is pretty much on the trade market right now. And I mean, this is my hypothesis. Even if he doesn't get dealt uh, before August 2nd, which is the trade deadline this year because of the lockout, even if he doesn't get dealt this year, doesn't doesn't hold him from not being dealt in the offseason or next trade deadline. So Juan Soto rejects a $440 million contract. It would have been the largest contract in baseball history. What were your thoughts on the Juan Soto news?
I mean, my first reaction to so I was told by someone I was with at the time, Juan Soto rejects, $440 million contract. I didn't see it myself, but I was like, they're just gonna trade him. And
Yeah,
obviously, that's kind of the consensus idea now. But at this point, how like I don't know, because I don't know how much he wants. I don't like I can't imagine it's the years. I honestly think it's the dollars.
mhm,
Um yeah, I don't think he's asking for 16 years. Um
yeah,
but I don't know. One part of me says if you're the Nationals and you've already offered 440, what's another 60 million?
right, yeah, um, yeah. There's so many ways to look at this, and you see just like largest contract in baseball history. Um, and you think like, oh, maybe Juan Soto's not the best player in baseball, so maybe he shouldn't get the largest contract in baseball history. But also,
But also he's
uh,
23.
he's 23. Yeah, like,
Not only that, but like what more does he have to prove in Washington at this point? Like maybe winning an MVP?
right, and
Like that's probably the only thing he still has left to do in Washington, and he's 23.
yeah, it's yeah, he's 23. So like, it out of anyone eligible for a contract, he'll get the most money. And that's why a 15-year deal is on the table for him. You look at someone like Mike Trout, who, yeah, he got $426.5 million over 12 years. It was, I think, a $35.8 million a year, or something like that. What
Mm-hmm.
Soda's been offered is $29.3 million per year. And, I think the market's changed a little bit. And I would have, even at the time, I think I would argue that Mike Trout got slightly underpaid. I think he could have gotten like $40 million a year if he wanted to. Maybe if he was on the open market. But I mean, yeah, Soto gets offered $29.3 million per year. But you look at someone like even if you just look at the free agent market this past off season, Corey Seager got $32.5 million a year. So even if you did that over 15 years for Juan Soto, it would be it would be 500 million or so. So yeah, it's really just a matter of years of why he would get the biggest contract in history, and the years make sense because he started his career so early and got successful very early. Started at 19, so his control ends after his age 25 season, I believe, because I think he has two more years of, or no, or yeah, he has two more years
a super
of control.
two, right?
Yeah, he's a super two. He has 2 more years of control after this, but he is in his second year of arbitration.
I think the saddest thing is that Juan Soto is still that far removed from free agency, and we're already talking about the reason that the fact that the Nationals just aren't going to be competitive by the time he's up.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, if you want a summary of how poorly the Nationals have built around him really since the World Series season, let me tell you the 8 players that have gotten 400 plate appearances so far this season. Matt Olson, Jake Cronenworth, Bo Bichette, Francisco Lindor, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley, Cedric Mullins, and Cesar Hernandez. Cesar Hernandez has a 72 weighted runs created plus this season. He has 400 plate appearances.
Right. Yeah. Like
every other one of those players is good.
Yeah.
Most of them are all-stars, right? Or not most of them. Jake Cronenworth is an all-star. Freddie Freeman is an all-star. Austin Riley is an all-star. I don't think Mullins is. No, he's not. But even then, some of them you could argue what could have been all-stars, or at least just are good.
Right. Yeah, and just the idea of being 31-63 with Juan Soto on your roster.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy as well. I mean, they have the worst record in baseball this year. So that in itself kind of shows how bad they've been built.
Not only that, but like I was thinking about this. When was the last time the Nationals drafted and developed an impact major leaguer?
Yeah, it's
like not not just developed in general, because I mean obviously there's Juan Soto who is more than a valid answer, but like every major leaguer that they've had develop themselves was an international signing. When have they drafted right?
Yeah, it may have been since like Trey Turner was drafted by the Padres.
It might be Rendon.
Yeah. Yeah, very possibly.
He's already what, like 8 years into his major league career?
Yeah.
Like that's such a wild. I know that the guy right now is Cade Cavalli. He looks good. It's intriguing, but as of right now, it's been at least a decade since the Nationals drafted an impact player.
Yeah, that's where they run into trouble, because no matter how big your payroll is and how many guys you can sign, you can only sign so many guys, and you need 9 guys to fill the field, and a DH and 5 starters and a bullpen. And you can't do that all through free agent signings. And it's good to get your free agent signings, but when you have no internal development, that's it's difficult to win for sure.
Going over, so they drafted Rendon 6th overall in 2011. And to be fair, they had a stretch of amazing draft picks, and obviously they were at the top of the draft list. But like Steven Strasburg, Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon in back-to-back years, that's like legendary.
Yeah,
like that's amazing. Since then, all of their first round picks have been Alex Mayer, Brian Goodwin, Lucas Giolito, who was good, but they traded him for Adam Eaton,
Yep.
Eric Fetty, Carter Keyboom, Dane Dunning, Seth Romero, Mason Denneberg, Jackson Rutledge, Cade Cavalli, Brady House.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with this club right now. And obviously some of those guys it's too early to tell. Is Brady House where is Brady House rank in their system?
I'm not sure, but yeah, like, and also with the MLB draft, it's not like the NBA draft where a later round or a later pick in the first round is, is not a good thing. Like Mike Trout got drafted like
Okay.
20 something overall. Aaron Judge, same thing. There's plenty of guys who are ready to, be very, obviously the guys at the top are going to correlate to the most success. However, there are also plenty of guys that are ready to be major league successes in those in those picks in the 20s and 30s.
So according to Pipeline, the Nationals' only top 100 prospects are Cavalli and House, who are at 46 and 51. Like the fact that your first round picks are your only top 100 prospects usually isn't a good sign of ability to develop, because sometimes you see guys that aren't first round picks build themselves up. We see it a lot, and that also international signings. Like there are so many people here, I guarantee you, that weren't first round picks.
Right. Yeah, most likely. Like
yeah, sure, most of them are first round picks, but like Gunnar Henderson, that's a second round pick. He's the number 5 prospect in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, there's definitely players outside of the first round who can be major successes. I mean, I don't want to be the cliche who's like Albert Pujols was selected in the 13th round.
Yeah.
And
that's something like that is hard to find like that.
Mookie Betts was a 5th rounder.
Mm-hmm.
There's just there's plenty of people that just they develop despite their draft pick. But I mean but yeah, like with this Juan Soto thing, what do you think is an appropriate contract for Juan Soto?
I'm cool with 15 years. I'd say it's got to be at least 475.
Right. 475.
I know he wants 500. But I honestly think if it's the right club, 475 could get it done.
Yeah, 475 would be $31.7 million per year. So yeah, that would make sense. What's 480 divided by 15? That'd be 32. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I'm wondering, like, this is also an interesting thing because I think a lot of people talk about like, oh, I kind of wish Mike Trout didn't stay with the Angels and he went out on the free agent market so that he could be with a playoff team. And it looks like Juan Soto is kind of making that move because I mean,
he's taking notes.
If he kind of if he believed in the if he believed in that in that Nationals organization, I think it would have been harder for him to reject $440 million.
Which is crazy because they're literally saying, hey, in the next 15 years. And the fact that Juan Soto is 23, like he's going to be in his prime for probably another 10 years. Like in 10 years, he'll be 33. There's reason to believe he'll still be producing at an elite level then. Like at the end of that deal, when he's 38, sure, he's probably tailed off by then. And he knows that. But like, he's probably given the Nationals like 10 years to be competitive and he's rejecting that.
Yeah, exactly. And especially given the type of player he is, he's not someone who's like relying on speed or completely on defense. He's he's a guy who's walking in 20% of his plate appearances. He's relying on, quality of contact for sure, but also being a great, visual hitter and seeing and being able to get on base. I mean, no one gets on base better than Juan Soto. That's just a fact.
Mhm.
So he's relying on that, and I think that can translate to some long-term success for him, for sure. And yeah, like he's looking to, yeah, as you say, he's looking to spend his prime somewhere where he knows he's going to be winning. And I think that's where it gets interesting for like trade targets, because like even though it'll be a trade deadline trade if it happens this year, it doesn't necessarily have to be a team that's one player away from winning it all this year. Like
No.
this is whoever's trading for him right now is taking on a long-term project for sure.
Like every team should at least take a second to consider it. Like not every team is going to be capable of getting it done, whether it be that they don't have the farm to do it or they don't have the money to pay him. But they should at least sit down and be like, could we get Soto? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. But that question should be asked in every front office.
Yeah, I mean every front office this weekend should have had that question, around a boardroom somewhere. But yeah, when I think about a team, like teams that wouldn't necessarily be crazy buyers this deadline, but like would look at Juan Soto, it would be teams like, I don't know, Giants or Red Sox, who are, they're only, I think they're both only 3 games above 500 this year, but
Mhm.
they're bigger market teams, and they would be able to look at extending Soto in the offseason. Um, who what would you see as like a good fit for Soto?
All of the reports have been saying that the Padres and Cardinals are the favorites right now. Um, and I think an important thing to realize is if you're a team that has the farm to get it done, like you also have to have major league talent on the roster right now. Like the Arizona Diamondbacks, for example, have one of the top farm systems in the league, but is it worth trading the entire farm, which is essentially your entire future, to get one player? Probably not.
Yeah,
Because I mean, like if you trade for Juan Soto, you now have to restart the building around him process. Like you can't just implement the guys you have now, except for maybe Ketel Marte.
right. Yeah.
Um, but the Padres, I think, are a team that could get it done. I mean, I know that they still have some guys left. They've traded their entire farm for guys already, but they've still got guys left in the tank. And
Yeah,
they have enough talent on their roster right now where they can build around him and put him on a winning team.
right.
The
Yeah,
St. Louis Cardinals, I'm weary about their ability to pay him, but at the same time, the Cardinals, every time they get an impact player, they do immediately extend them. Like they did so with Goldschmidt, they did so with Arenado. Like both of those guys were traded to the Cardinals and immediately extended before they even stepped foot on the field.
um
But obviously this is a much different asking price than those two had.
yeah, uh yeah, for sure. Like, and you have to wonder, like, yeah, with the Cardinals, how many more, big contract, like I don't view the Cardinals as necessarily a giant market team.
No.
Um, like I think that I usually think of them as like a second tier big market, I guess. But I'm wondering, like, now I'm curious at like what their payroll is this year, and like
I wonder if
if they'd be able to tack on another contract.
it could be argued Tyler O'Neill goes in that trade package.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they
Like
would be.
if you believe enough in like guys like Dylan Carlson, maybe guys like Nolan Gorman, what if you throw him in there? And obviously it's gonna take much, much more than that, but what if that's a piece?
Yeah, I'm sure they would be less hesitant after his performance this year. The Cardinals have $150 million committed this year. So like, you know, and if you're talking like luxury tax, they're pretty far away from that. Adding Soto would, they'd still be pretty distant from the luxury tax if they added Soto with like a $30 million a year contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely possible for them. I know I talked about the Giants this past off season, saying that they had some room before the luxury tax, and they're a bigger market team than the Cardinals are. And then Padres, they have a young roster, so I don't think they're like they have a lot of talent, but I think they've only given out big contracts to like Tatis, Machado, and I guess Eric Hosmer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
A lot of people have also suggested the Mets, but I honestly don't think the Nationals would trade within the division.
right, yeah. Padres
think
have
they would do that.
$207 million committed this year. But a lot of that has to do with
When does Hosmer come off the books?
well, this is interesting. Hosmer gets paid $21 million this year, but $13 million a year for the next 3 years. So
they front loaded that deal.
yeah, they did, and
That's smart.
very smart. And Will Myers is getting paid $22.5 million this year. He's a free agent next year. So
There's a club option that'll definitely be declined.
yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, the biggest contracts are Tatis, Machado, but then like yeah, Will Myers, like you know, that's not going to be an issue. Eric Hosmer's value drops. Yu Darvish is there the next couple years, but I mean, it's worth it to have him on the team for that much money. And then yeah, I mean, it's not many big contracts after that.
One of the funniest things from last night's derby, just what now that we're on the topic of the Padres, but you know how StatCast just introduced that like bat tracking metric?
Um,
It measures like swing speed, like how
yeah, a
you know
little
fast
bit.
you're. So anyway, I was watching the Statcast broadcast yesterday, and they were going over how Julio Rodriguez has the fastest bat speed in the majors, and why that is gonna, you know, that would have helped him in the Derby. And Petriello was going over like the list of players. He's like, you know, towards the top we see all these young guys. We see, you know, Julio. We see like Yordan Alvarez, blah 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 blah. And then towards the bottom we see guys like, you know, some of the older veterans. You know, guys like Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, all those older guys, and also Jurickson Profar. Such an unnecessary shot at Jurickson Profar.
Yeah, Jurickson Profar. Like, yeah, we know that he was a top prospect about a decade ago, but he's still like late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, the Profar things, that's a very funny observation. Like to have him in the same any category, like even if it's age, it doesn't make sense with Cabrera and Pujols. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean,
By the way, that bat tracking thing, it's only like the technology is in two ballparks, and it's Houston and LA. So we were very lucky last night that the home run derby happened to be in one of the two ballparks, so they can get those metrics.
right, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So yeah, like Soto's, I guess it's interesting. The Cardinals one is interesting to me. Padres, you know, they've been going pretty all out for the past couple years, so it makes a bit of sense. In terms of other teams, yeah, you mentioned the Mets, like yeah, it might be hard for them to go in division. With like the Yankees, that'll be hard. I mean, the Yankees have they have a $230 million payroll this year. And you know, I mean, if they got Soto, they'd have to probably choose between Soto and Judge on who they would pay.
Yeah, and I think they'd pick Judge there, which is probably not the right move, but it would be hard to imagine they don't.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, when this offseason arrives, I would predict that Aaron Judge goes to the Yankees. I think
I
that
do too.
it just makes sense. Um, so yeah, and I think they'd rather just keep Judge around and sign him than give up the farm for Juan Soto. Even though Juan Soto is a guy you give up the farm for, and the Yankees have a very good farm.
Yeah. They have the
Um,
guys to make they have the guys to get it done for sure.
yes, that's for sure. Yeah, this will be very interesting to keep track of. You know, we'll see um if he gets traded in this trade deadline. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. And yeah, I mean, it big wrench into the throws a big wrench into the trade deadline because it looked like there wasn't going to be too much action going on this trade deadline, especially compared to last year.
Yeah, no, I mean last year was one of the best of all time. Um, yeah, this year looked to be pretty dry, but now we have probably the biggest trade in a long, long time. Like I can't if Juan Soto gets traded this July / early August, I can't even tell. Like I don't know the last time a trade that big happened. I think it's bigger than the Mookie Betts trade.
Yeah, when Mookie Betts got traded, he was heading into his age 28 season, 27 season. So
I mean, like this is basically, hey, do you want this guy? You'll get a free Hall of Fame plaque with your logo on it. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
free, but guaranteed.
yeah, like that's an association. It's like you're getting 400 OBPs, some great quality of contact for a while. And he's been this good since he was 19.
Because whoever trades for him and signs him, he's probably going into the Hall of Fame with their cap. It's hard to imagine he goes in with the Nationals at this point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, interesting. Like Harper will probably, if he's a Hall of Famer, will probably go in with the Phillies.
Yeah, that's so wild. Like Mookie Betts will probably go in with the Dodgers.
Yeah, very
So
funny.
weird.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess to take away from this, at least the Nationals got a World Series.
Yes, at least they have that because, man, at least they had the wonderful 19-31.
Yeah, like if Howie Kendrick doesn't exist, the Nationals franchise that's a giant mess.
We're talking about it the same way we talked about the Rockies last year.
Yeah, for sure. Or just
if AJ Hinch keeps Zach Greinke in that game.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, like this, and the Nationals were like, yeah, they were at the end of their window and they luckily they caught it. Otherwise,
if Dave Roberts went with Kenley Jansen in the 8th inning.
Yeah, otherwise it would have been a gigantic failure from the
If
Nationals.
the Dodgers didn't do a bullpen game in Game 4.
Right.
If Josh Hader had it that night.
Yeah.
They could have been out in one game. They were down to the last 4 outs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if Josh Hader just locked it down in the 8th on October 1st.
We're not talking about that on October 30th.
Yeah. But yeah, if they lose Soto, then that's a rebuild process. It'll be going on for half a decade at least.
The sad thing to me about the Nationals is that the message that they tried to send was, we didn't pay Harper so we could pay Soto.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be 2 times now where they've had a once in a generation type player that they let go because they didn't want to pay them. And like they have, I think they can pay them. Like I really do think they could pay Soto if they wanted to. Because like I said, they've already offered 440 mil. What's another 60 mil?
Yeah, like it yeah, it's just odd, especially given like, I know they haven't signed a $500 million contract before, but they've had a barrage of a barrage of $100 million contracts given out. I mean, they've had they during the 2020 season, they had Scherzer, Corbin, and Strasburg all on deals. Well, yeah, they had Scherzer on a $210 million deal. They had Strasburg on a $245 million deal and Corbin on a $144 million deal, all at the same time. So like, yeah, there may not be one $500 million contract, but they had the capability of paying all that money at the same time.
To multiple players, yeah.
Yeah,
We also haven't mentioned the fact that they depleted their farm for Adam Eaton.
a little bit. Yeah,
That I completely forgot about that. And man, did that one set the franchise back because you and I were talking, and if they had Lucas Giolito and he was performing the way he was with the White Sox, you don't need to resign. You probably don't resign Steven Strasburg.
yeah,
You still might, but it's definitely not a guarantee.
yeah. Very
By the
true.
way, it was just announced that he's not returning this season, which is how many innings has he pitched since he signed that deal?
Steven Strasburg, like
Yeah.
9, something wild.
He did pitch 22. No, okay. He pitched 5 innings in 2020, 21 and 2/3 in 2021, 4.2 this year.
So that's a grand total of
31 and a third innings.
yeah,
And oh, by the way, a 5.69 FIP.
yeah, 61 ERA plus.
4.1 walks per nine, 1.7 home runs per nine.
And even with the Corbin and Strasburg deals as they are right now, plus Soto making $17.1 million in arbitration, the Nationals payroll, according to Baseball Reference this year, is $124 million, which is I would imagine that's nowhere close to what it was in like 2019.
Yeah.
So I mean, like they have the spending capabilities. They plan on succeeding in the next 15 years, I imagine. I imagine the rebuild process will not take longer than 15 years. So like, maybe they're taking it as a thing where like, oh, he rejected $440 million, so he just doesn't want to be here in general. So, but I don't know. I don't think that's the case because it's just like you offered him $29 million a year and he's probably worth more than $30 million a year.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going on. It's interesting that
if Aaron Judge is going to be making 36 million a year at his age 31 season starting there, yeah, why can't Soto make 30 mil as a 24-year-old?
Yeah, exactly. As a guy who was, runner up in MVP last year,
Third 2 years ago,
like maybe he was top 5 or
maybe he was 4th, I think. People, by the way, like we won't ever know this for sure, but he believed that he had a false positive COVID test at the beginning of the 2020 season, which caused him to only play 44 games and therefore only get 5th in the MVP voting. Like, obviously, we will never know for sure if he actually had a false positive or not. He could have just been asymptomatic, but in those 47 games, he slashed 351, 490, 695. Like,
yeah,
that might have, if it truly was, that cost him an MVP.
very much so. Yeah, like he won a batting title, led the league in OPS.
He led the league he led the majors. Oh, he didn't lead the majors in batting average, but he led the National League in the entire quad slash line.
Yeah, and yeah, and last year was runner up for MVP. He's consistently just been a fantastic hitter, and there's some articles comparing him to Ted Williams, but I mean, like you look at the you look at their ages and their numbers in those ages, and yeah, there's some comparisons to make. I mean, his career OPS plus is Juan Soto's career OPS plus is what, like 160 something.
Yeah, exactly 160.
Yeah, it's 160. So he's been 60% above average and his entire career, and he hasn't even turned 24 yet.
He has an 18.9% walk rate and a 16.9% strikeout rate in almost 2,400 plate appearances.
Right. And like, yeah, where's Mike Trout at before he signed that deal? Or no, he signed it after 2018.
Would he have been like 27 then?
Yeah, and he had a 175 OPS plus. I will say better defense and base running from him, so maybe not the best comp, but like yeah, Soto being 60% above average offensively, as in his career heading into his age or through his age 23 season. You just don't see it that often, and yeah, he should be getting at least $30 million per year for a long time. All right. Well, anything more on this Juan Soto deal or on this Juan Soto?
That was everything I had.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles to go about it. Just yeah, the Nationals are in a very bad place, and yeah, looking, I guess Juan Soto's on the market. Very interesting. All right, so last bit of news we'll get into before our midseason awards is Chris Sale. We didn't talk about him coming back, but he was on the 60-day IL earlier with a rib injury, and this was after being away for a year and a half with elbow surgery, or after getting Tommy John surgery, and then he came back in August of last year, finished out the year, pitched in the playoffs last year. He had a pretty good year in the 2 months he was able to play last year. But he started this year with an injury that held him out for 3 months. It was a rib injury, and then he took a line drive off the pinky, which broke his pinky, and he will be out for another 6 to 8 weeks. So, just the worst luck you could really have for Chris Sale. And what sucks is that it's a freak injury, and it's probably going to be added to like a resume of like, oh, he's injured all the time. But this one was actually a freak injury.
Yeah, no, that what happened to him could have happened to anyone at any time. He got hit with a line drive. His pinky was bending in a way it's not supposed to bend. That just, I don't know. You have to feel bad in that scenario. Like the amount of time he's worked to get back to that point. It's basically been since the start of the 2020 season when he got Tommy John surgery, and to finally seem like you've come back from all of it, and only to, have something happen that's completely out of your control. Like that just, that's so brutal.
Yeah, it is. It is like, and I guess the one silver lining with this is like, he's already gotten his contract, so at least that settled down.
It's not going to play well in Boston, though.
It's not going to play well in Boston. But like for Chris Sale's sake, at least it's not affecting a contract situation. However, yeah, like he wants to be out there like any baseball player. He wants to be out there. And I think really just kind of being taken out of the frying pan and into the fire situation a little bit. And from a Red Sox perspective, your best pitcher, the best pitcher in your organization, just came back. In his first start back, he looked very good. He went 5 shutout innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. And like, the Red Sox are heading into a very tough part of their schedule, and they wanted Chris Sale there. And they've been kind of sliding recently. And now Chris Sale's back on the IL. It's I think it changes the perspective of where the Red Sox are at currently.
The Red Sox had a really good run in June and like early July, and there was, their slide started in early July, maybe even late June, where it seemed like Chris Sale was like the savior of the team, and now you just don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the Red Sox, they had Nathan Eovaldi and Garrett Whitlock out at the same time as Chris Sale, and Whitlock was a starter at the time of his injury. So like, the Red Sox, their rotation depth has not been what they wanted it to be. They've called up a couple guys, notably like Brian Bayo, who started the year in Double-A, and he's risen up pretty significantly, but I think they wanted to marinate him a little bit in the minor leagues, as well as like Cutter Crawford. He's not a well-known starter, although he's been doing actually pretty well, but they didn't want to rely on these guys, and I think they're going to have to rely more on these lesser names as they head into this very tough stretch. And I believe if you look at MLB strength of schedule remaining, Red Sox have the hardest schedule remaining out there.
Yeah. They have a tough one.
So like, I think this conversation has been brought up a lot, but like, does it make the Red Sox less aggressive at the trade deadline, knowing that Chris Sale is out longer, and the idea of them being successful in the second half is less so?
I honestly think the Red Sox could do a mix of buying and selling at the deadline, because they're still 2 games out of a playoff spot right now, and I know that Red Sox fans don't want a mindset of let's just get in and see what happens. Like they want a team that wants to win the World Series, or I guess a front office that wants to. But like, you got to remember the Braves won 88 games last year. Like, just get in and who knows what happens.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't be opposed to selling certain pieces, because the Red Sox have a lot of free agents upcoming this year. Maybe, just for example, they have JD Martinez, Nathan Eovaldi, Christian Vasquez coming off. I don't think they should entertain the idea of trading Xander Bogaerts, even though he could be a free agent this offseason. That's not something they should entertain, but if you can get some pieces for them and then maybe get a couple relievers, it's a weird mix, but I think without those guys, you still have a roster that could get in, because we've seen the Red Sox. This might honestly be the most starting rotation depth they've had in any season that I can remember.
Right. Yeah.
Especially with guys that they develop themselves. I mean, maybe not entirely, but like Josh Winkowski, Connor Siebold, who they got in trades, Cutter Crawford, who's looked good recently.
Well, yeah. I mean, going back to the thing of like, maybe a mix of selling and buying. In the Dave Dombrowski era of the Red Sox, that we wouldn't have seen that. However,
no.
Chaim Bloom, I could definitely see that happening with Chaim Bloom being their GM. He's kind of been doing that like the whole time he's been with the Red Sox almost. I mean, probably a little more buyer heavy in the lately. However, like, he notably used to work in the Rays front office, and they always have done that. They've always been a mix of buyers and sellers, trying to just take advantage of whatever pieces they have. But yeah, I think, in terms of, Chris Sale affecting this, Yeah, I mean he was supposed to be the head of that rotation in and also should be noted in that start against the Rays in which he came back, he looked like, last year there was he looked a little bit off. Like in this last start, he looked like this Chris Sale of like 2018, 2017, that competing for Cy Young, Chris Sale.
The Rays start, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, not the Yankees start.
yeah. Um, he looked that way, and he looked like he was going to be the best starter. Excuse me. Looked like he was going to be the best starter in the Red Sox rotation going forward. And yeah, takes him out. Yeah, kind of changes things for the Red Sox a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially with the Mariners as hot as they are. Like they're probably definitely gonna get a playoff spot.
I mean, I don't want to say definitely because you never know. Like they are on a 14-game win streak, and this could be the peak of their season. But right now, all things are coming up Mariners.
Yeah, and they're getting hot earlier than they got hot last year. Which is good. But like, yeah, looking at it, they're 3 games above the team that's first out of the wild card spot, which is the Red Sox. And everyone on their team is turning it around. So yeah. All right. Any more thoughts on the Chris Sale injury?
Not particularly, no.
All right. Guess that transitions into the 2022 midseason awards. Very, very important. A lot of futures depending on these awards, financial situations based on the above
Yes.
replacement radio midseason awards. We saw how it affected Brandon Lau in 2020. And might have been Luis or no, I don't think Luis Rojas wasn't manager of the year midseason last year. It was Gabe Kapler, but like
Oh yeah, it had to be.
yeah, I'm misremembering that, but like yeah, Brandon Lau in 2020. That we know how much it affected him in 2020. But yeah, our 2022 midseason awards will go in the order that they're handed out at the end of the season, with Rookie of the Year going first. All right. American League Rookie of the Year. Who do you got?
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. This is one of the easier ones. It's Julio Rodriguez. There's no other way of looking at it. I could hit you with all the statistics in the world, but I think everyone listening knows that it's Julio. I guess some honorable mentions would be Jeremy Pena, maybe Bobby Witt Jr., Adley Rushman, but it's absolutely Julio. Your prediction's looking good on that one, Chris.
Yeah, I did predict Julio Rodriguez at the beginning of the year. He was the number 3 overall prospect in baseball, so wasn't going too much out on a limb. But yeah, Julio Rodriguez, if you want to know the stats, he leads all qualified AL rookies in slugging percentage with a 477, OPS with an 814, and weighted runs created plus with a 135. He also leads American League rookies in home runs with 16, runs scored with 53, RBI with 52, stolen bases with 21, offensive runs above average, and F4. Leads American League rookies in all those categories. Do we also want to do the thing where we say who we have now and who we think will win?
Yeah, I'm down. I still have Julio.
Yeah, I think Julio.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to backtrack from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Julio Rodriguez will end up winning as well. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of cut and dry for Julio Rodriguez. National League Rookie of the Year.
I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, National League Rookie of the Year. I'm going with Spencer Strider. At the midseason award. He has the most F-WAR of any rookie at any position this year so far, or any National League rookie at any position. I should correct that. Julio Rodriguez has more than him. Spencer Strider has a 3.03 ERA, 2.04 FIP, a 2.68 expected ERA, and a 141 ERA plus in 74 and a third innings pitched. I would say his only real competition is his teammate, Michael Harris, who has an 816 OPS. He's also a very quality base runner and a quality defender, I believe. And I think I could definitely see Harris pulling out the award come season's end. And I think there's a good argument for Harris being better so far this season as well. But I will say, I think Spencer Strider is like your midseason National League Rookie of the Year. And I think Strider will end up winning because, I mean, his peripherals just show that what he's doing is sustainable. Maybe, I don't know if he's going to end up with over 13 strikeouts per nine this year, but it's possible. It's possible for sure. Who do you got for National?
I also have Spencer Strider. And I think I'm pretty safe saying that I'm going to have him at the end of the year as well. This is just so wild because the Braves came into this season with the number 27th ranked farm system on MLB Pipeline, and they probably have 1 and 2 in National League Rookie of the Year voting, which is just ridiculous. That's not supposed to happen. Spencer Strider has double the number of F4 of anyone else among pitchers. He has 2.4. Joe Ryan has the second most among pitchers. With 1.2. Scott Efros from the Cubs also is 1.2. There's really no other way of putting it. This is the easy pick for sure.
Right. It
would take a monster second half from somebody else, along with a bit of regression from Strider for him to not win it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, also like what should be noted with Rookie of the Year is like it's also not the most valuable rookie. So I think like Michael Harris, he's been doing pretty well. I think he's been relatively consistent as well. And he's, every day in the lineup as well. But like Spencer Strider is looking like a star with the amount of guys he's striking out with the dominant performance he's having. So I think that's more notable in a Rookie of the Year voting than maybe an MVP voting or like most valuable, anything in terms of value.
Yeah.
So who do you got for? So now we get into the awards that the least analytical awards. Manager of the Year.
For American League, I have Aaron Boone. There's really no other way of looking at it. I think the other possibility could be Brandon Hyde, but I don't know, just with how good the Yankees have been this year, it's hard to justify giving it to anybody else, especially when they weren't supposed to win the division. Like, there were teams that other people agreed were better at the beginning of the season. And not only are the Yankees the best team in baseball, but they're 13 games up in the division at the All-Star break, which is absurd because this is supposed to be the most competitive division where there were 4 teams that had a chance of winning it, but the division was over in mid-May.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah, they've been unbelievable. My American League Manager of the Year is Brandon Hyde.
Okay.
And this isn't me saying, I know I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm not saying this out of Yankee dismay.
Hatred. Yeah.
But my argument for Brandon Hyde, so Manager of the Year is basically based on expectations versus results. And I know the Yankees' expectations weren't that high this year. I had them as a 4th place team, probably mid to upper 80s in the win total, I was thinking. But the only reason one of the only reasons I thought that way was because I didn't believe in Aaron Boone as a manager. And, I thought he should have been fired last year. And I think the Yankees have made so much of an improvement. I think they've made so much of an improvement because, they underperformed last year. and they underperformed in 2020 as well. So they've been underperforming the past couple of years under Aaron Boone. So I think I'm just not rewarding Aaron Boone for not underperforming this year. I will say they're doing better than they should, even with like, they're on a 113 win pace. They're definitely doing better than they should be doing. But I think with Brandon Hyde, going back to Brandon Hyde, the Orioles should not be a 500 team. That's for sure. And they didn't, they haven't made any additions. No reason they should be a 500 team. However, he's managed them to being a 500 team, and their bullpen looks very good. I think having a good bullpen is a sign of putting your players in the right position. So yeah, I think I have Brandon Hyde because like if I looked at where he should be, like where his team should be relative to the rest of the league, like I'm looking at the other last place teams right now. Like the Royals are 20 games below 500. The Athletics are 29 games below 500. Reds 23 games below 500. Nationals 32 games below 500. I was thinking I would think at this point in the season the Orioles would be at least 20 games below 500, but they're at 500, and like that's insane to me. So I'm going with Brandon Hyde. National League Manager of the Year. There really isn't much of a race, but it's like I don't know. I don't know if it's because he's an awesome manager, but I'm going with Buck Showalter. And also with American League Manager of the Year for who I think will end up winning, I think it'll be Aaron Boone though.
I do too.
National League Manager of the Year, I have Buck Showalter. My explanation for it is like, yeah, I mean they went 77 and 85 this or last year. They're 58 and 35 now, and they really what kind of stands out for Showalter is they were above 500 when they had both Scherzer and DeGrom out, and they held that division lead the entire time. So I'm impressed with the Mets there, and I think that earns Showalter the midseason National League Manager of the Year.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I mean, the headline of this team coming into the season was Scherzer and DeGrom, and that hasn't been the reality for the team. They've never had both. They only have had Scherzer for 11 starts. And not only that, but they lost Tyler McGill, who was their opening day starter. Like they've had to really change up their rotation and even their bullpen to a degree. And they've been pretty consistent throughout the season. I know the Braves are catching them in the standings right now, but right now they're still in first. And it's hard, it's really hard to give it to anyone else right now just because there isn't a whole lot of competition. Like every other team that's good was expected to be good.
Yeah, and I mean, the Mets are also they're not in first place by chance. The Braves have been great this year. They've been a better regular season team than they were last year. They have the third best record in the National League, and the Mets have the second best record in the National League. So it's not like they just happen to be in first place. They've very well earned their first place spot.
The only competition I can maybe think of would be Rob Thompson.
That's true. Yeah.
But I think even that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, especially given like the Phillies have played like less than half their games under his management so far, even though they've done very well under his management. It's like, I guess it's a smaller sample size if you can count that for managers, but
exactly.
But yeah. So yeah, and I think Showalter will end up winning. Even if he doesn't win the division, it's just like I just don't see like another person winning it unless like I don't know.
Unless the Padres have a major breakout and
yeah,
finish with like 95 plus wins, then I think Bob Melvin has a chance.
I think Bob Melvin would have a shot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they did finish below 500 last year, and Bob Melvin is a new manager. So
I'd say if the Mets clinch home field advantage in the first playoff series, they should be good. That of course means winning the division. Does it just mean winning the division? I think it does. No, they could have the first wild card too.
Oh yeah. I think that would make
which
sense.
I think they would easily be in line for that right now.
Yep. Yeah, I mean they're 6 games better than the Padres, who have the first wild card spot.
Yeah.
And they have Scherzer back, and eventually DeGrom probably.
We got
Um,
both New York managers winning that award at the end of the year.
yep, we do. American League Cy Young, who do you got?
So for AL Cy Young, there's a lot of options I can go with here, but I think I'm going to have to go with Shane McClanahan. He currently has a 1.71 ERA, and he leads the American League in strikeout to walk ratio. He leads the majors in K rate minus walk rate by almost 5%. He's just been one of the most dominant starters. He also leads the AL in opponents average against at 176. He was an xFIP of 0.99 of 1.99 too, which is one of the best seasons in memory.
Yeah,
The next best is Garrett Cole at 270. That's 71 points away. That's got to be one of the best of all time.
yeah, for sure.
Let me check that actually. But yeah, Shane McClanahan, he's really stepped up for the Rays in a year where we were very concerned about their rotation depth. In 110 innings pitched this year, it's hard to find a starter in the American League that has been more dominant than him on a start-to-start basis.
Yeah, that's been him. He's been so consistent, and it's funny because on Baseball Savant's front page, it's like Shane McClanahan is having he's doing what Blake Snell was doing, like with age,
Yeah,
and it's like, nah, Shane McClanahan's been doing better.
you're probably right.
Yeah, like Snell had a 1.80 ERA. McClanahan right now is at 1.71, and Snell's FIP that year was above 3. I wasn't as into FIP in 2018, so I didn't look too far into it. But yeah, Snell wasn't as dominant. Shane McClanahan, yeah, I have Shane McClanahan as well. I was almost ready to have the Gausman McClanahan argument. I thought you might have gone Gausman.
No, I have to go McClanahan on
Yeah,
this one. I know that Gausman has had the FIP season, but I mean, the BABIP has been tough, and also the contact against hasn't been great either.
yeah,
But McClanahan, like, he has better strikeout to walk numbers. He had some tough home run luck early in the season, but that's been much better for him as of late.
yeah. So Shane McClanahan, statistically, he has the 7th most innings pitched at 110. He has the lowest ERA in the league at 1.71.
And let me just get this pulled up, but xFIP, like the tracking of xFIP on Fangraphs goes back to 2002. And I'm just waiting for the page to load real quick. So since 2002, there have been 1,601 qualifying seasons, and Shane McClanahan's xFIP of 1.99 ranks first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The only one that's like the only close ones are 2020 Shane Bieber at 2.04, 2014 Kershaw, 2015 Kershaw at 208 and 209, and then the next closest is 02 Kurt Schilling at 220. So Shane McClanahan's xFIP season has been pretty. I mean, like, I know that we're not going to use xFIP to determine Cy Young rate, but I mean,
yeah,
that's awesome because he's a 16.2% home run to fly ball ratio.
Yeah, that's a great stat. Yeah, McClanahan has the lowest ERA in the American League, lowest expected ERA, lowest SI ERA, and best strikeout minus walk rate, as you mentioned. And then as far as forecasting the future, I think he will end up winning. I mean, his strikeout to walk numbers are just insane, and I mean, given that home run to fly ball ratio has him being a little unlucky, that's a good sign for him as well. And I mean, he gets ground balls at more than a 50% rate. So he and his exit velocity against as well is very good, which isn't necessarily like a requirement when you have strikeout to walk numbers like he has, but even his quality of contact against is great. Great all around, and I think he'll end up winning. Do Do you think he will end up taking the AL Cy Young?
I absolutely do. Yeah. I don't think
Um,
there's a pick that I would backtrack from in this entire thing.
yeah, sometimes it's just hard to see things going differently, unless injury happens, of course. Um, all right, so National League Cy Young, I'll start and I'll go with I'm gonna say Sandy Alcantara. He's been sweeping the news, and he leads the league in innings pitched with 138 by he leads the league in innings pitched by 11 and 2/3 innings pitched. So like the next best guy, he has like two more starts worth of innings. So that's a good start. And then he leads qualified starters in ERA and expected ERA in the National League at a 1.76 ERA and a 2.54 expected ERA. And quality of contact against him is great. And his ground ball rate is 57%. And I think he will end up winning Cy Young. So yeah.
One of my colleagues at Diamond Digest had a tweet that I think about very often where she said Shane McClanahan, or not Shane McClanahan, Sandy Alcantara pitches like a next gen pitcher while having the stat line of some dude from the 80s, and it's tremendous.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, because I mean, he has 8 strikeouts per 9, but he throws 99-mile-per-hour sinkers with great horizontal movement.
He also has a 56.4% ground ball rate, which I think is the third best in the league, which is hilarious. Yeah, he is. There's no reason for me to not pick him. He was my preseason Cy Young pick. I see no reason to get away from that now. And yeah, this one's absolutely happening. You can put it in the bank.
Yeah, and the thing that makes me think that he will end up winning, and like, I don't know if he's going to win ERA title. I don't know if he's going to have, like, he doesn't have the best FIP now, but I don't know if he will.
If he keeps up this innings pitch thing,
that's what I'm saying is
the
like,
voters are going to love that. They're going to eat that up.
Like, that's exactly what I'm saying is, even if he doesn't lead in those categories, he's probably going to end up having like 20 more innings than the next best guy. He's just going to have that workload. He's on pace for probably like 225, 230 innings pitched this season, which is you're not seeing that much. And if he has that and a low 2 ERA, I think it's a guarantee he wins. All right. Now for American League MVP. Who do you got?
I have Shohei Ohtani. I know it's the chalk pick, but between pitching and hitting, I believe he was at 4.7 F4, which is tied with Aaron Judge for the most. Let me just double check and make sure that he is absolutely. I'm pretty sure he is.
As of last night, yeah, and nothing changed.
Nothing has changed since. So yeah, no, he is 1.8 F4 as a hitter and 2.9 as a pitcher. He's been one of the top pitchers in the league. Like, you could legitimately put him in the discussion for Cy Young. I don't think he is going to win it, but he could probably get votes for both, which is just incredible. How funny would it be to see a guy win MVP but finish like 7th in the Cy Young voting?
Yeah, that would.
Like, normally it's the other way around. You win the Cy Young, you finish 7th in the MVP voting. That would have to be a first. That would have to be a Tungsten Armo Doyle moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, 133 weighted runs created plus as a hitter, and his ERA plus is probably even better.
It's 167.
Yeah, 167 as a hitter. He started out the season kind of slow offensively, but he picked it up quite a bit. He's at 835 for his OPS right now. He leads the majors with 7 intentional walks too.
And what's funny
he also has a BABIP of 228, so you have reason to believe that's going up.
Yeah, what's very funny is he's had some of the worst luck hitting wise.
Yep.
In terms of like, yeah, the WOBA minus expected WOBA scale. I think like I should check. I'll check it right now just for the audience
All right.
sake. But
While you're going, he is 5.95 or 5.59 strikeouts per walk, 12.7 strikeouts per nine, 2.3 walks per nine. What is his K rate minus walk rate? Let me get that one
it's
checked out
near
right now.
30%, I think.
That's pretty hysterical.
Like pretty close for sure.
Minimum 80 innings pitched. And he is second in the league. It's 29.1. He's down by 2% to Shane McClanahan. Yeah, you can't tell me that anyone else deserves it. I know that we just had the discussion of there are 6 people that are in the race. Right now it show like I still think there are 6 people that have a chance to win it, but right now it is Shohei Ohtani's award to lose.
Yeah. With the luck thing, Shohei Ohtani is 7th unluckiest out of 141.
Wow.
Out of 141 batters with 200 plus batted balls. And yeah, it is funny. We had that who will win AL MVP discussion like, less than a month ago. It was like 3 weeks ago. But Shohei Ohtani, after that episode, went out and had the best 3 weeks maybe of his career, where he, was hitting at a very good level and also, had like a .280 ERA or something like that.
He leads all pitchers in F4 at some certain point, like since some certain day. By the way, I just want to flex my F4 team real quick. That's in 5th place. I have 4 starting pitchers because I have Ohtani, and all 3 of them are in the top 18 of K rate minus walk rate.
Love that.
Yeah. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani, Robbie Ray, Frankie Montas, get well soon, and Shane Bieber.
Yep, that's a very good sign. So my American League MVP is also Shohei Ohtani. So yeah, I mean, he has a 135 OPS plus in 382 plate appearances, and then he has a 167 ERA plus in 87 innings pitched, facing 347 batters. So he's had 382 plate appearances and faced 347 batters as a pitcher. So I mean, the amount of like pitcher batter interactions he's had is crazy, and then he's done it at a very high level in both. His combined B WAR ranks 1st in the American League, and his combined F WAR is tied for 1st. And he also has 3.4 combined win probability added, which is a higher win probability added than all the other candidates. So yeah, like I think, like he was like 6th in my mind when we did that episode 3 weeks ago, but like, he's really stolen the show lately. He's been
the show.
Yeah, the SHO. He's really stolen it. Like I should go back to his reference page, but I mean, like, yeah, his pitching has been unbelievable, and he's his hitting has been very good as well. So I have him as the midseason MVP, and I think he's going to end up winning it, winning the actual MVP 2 years in a row. Yeah, especially the way he's pitching, and I think he will hit better in the second half.
I do too.
Okay. Last award, National League MVP. I'll start and say I have Paul Goldschmidt. This is kind of weird because like it's weird because I don't know how much I can factor like luck with like BABIP luck with like awards, but like it's the midseason award. And I don't know, Paul Goldschmidt's just been very good. He leads the entire quadruple slash line with a 330, 414, 590, 1004 slash line. Also leads all National League position players in win probability added. And he is hitting 406 with a 1315 OPS with runners in scoring position. I never wrote down who I thought was going to end up winning it. Paul Goldschmidt's had an interesting season. He has like a 388 BABIP, I think, this year. His difference in WOBA an expected WOBA. It's a pretty large difference. However, like his slash line numbers are amazing, and I mean, with what's happened on the field, it's hard to argue.
Yeah, 330, 414, 590,
Yeah.
184 weighted runs created plus. That the next closest in the National League is Freddie Freeman at 159.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also have Paul Goldschmidt. I think it's cool to see him. It would be cool to see him finally get one because he's long overdue. Like him and Jose Ramirez are the most overdue players for sure.
Right.
Maybe Aaron Judge too. I still would say Jose Ramirez, but that's a different conversation. Anyway, Paul Goldschmidt, he's been a finalist for MVP so many times. I don't think he's ever been robbed of one. Like I think there's always been someone more deserving, but I think it is his turn.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, like he's on a very much a Hall of Fame track. And I've always found him to be a little underrated, up to this year. So I think him getting that national recognition as an MVP, I think that would be very good for him.
Yeah, I think the 880 conversation is out the door at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a disappointment if it was in contention again.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Yeah,
But you know what? If he's gonna break it, this is the way to do it.
Right. Like, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. Like, yeah, I think it would just be fair if he won an MVP. I think it would make a lot of sense.
He's finished in the top three times. He's a 2-time runner-up. He was a runner-up in 2015 to Bryce Harper and a runner-up in 2013 to Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah.
Additionally, he was third in 2017 to Joey Votto and Giancarlo Stanton. He was sixth in 2018. He's due.
Yeah. So I have Paul Goldschmidt winning midseason MVP. I'm gonna throw a little bit of I don't know if it's that much of a curveball, but I will have a different player winning.
Okay.
Ending up winning.
Can I guess who it is?
Sure.
Do you have Manny Machado?
No, it's not even a guy who has fantastic defense, but I think
I want to guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it Freddie Freeman?
Yeah, I think Freddie Freeman's gonna steal it.
Wow.
His quality of contact has been very good. He's really been surging lately. He's actually had fantastic numbers since he fired that agent, which is funny. Doesn't want to be in Los Angeles, but he's doing fantastic there. So that's funny. I think he'll steal it. I think he has the team also. That's a slight factor, even though all the finalists last year didn't make the playoffs, but still sometimes it's a factor. And I think Paul Goldschmidt's success is like less sustainable. And I love his success, but I think that OPS will drop probably into like the low 900s by the end of the year.
Okay.
Just my opinion. Whereas like I think Freddie Freeman will have like around mid 900s, and I could see Arenado or Machado taking it, like with how good their defense has been plus their offense.
I'm gonna, just because he's on the Cardinals and they seem to have luck on their side pretty often, I'm gonna say that he keeps that going.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I respect that for sure. He's been above and beyond everyone in the slash line this year in the National League, pretty much. He's I mean, his OPS this year is like 70 points better than the next best guy in the National League. So
yeah, it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take a big fall and a huge resurgence from someone else.
For sure. All right, so that's the end of our midseason awards. Congratulations to everyone who won. And we'll see how these these awards end up being. Always fun to observe for sure. All right. So now we will get into our players to highlight, starting with the Tuesday, July 19, 2022 edition of.
How about that?
And by the way, we will not have these next episode because no games will have been played. So, Daniel, who are you looking at this week?
I'm taking a victory lap this episode.
Love
Not
that.
just for myself, but for a certain organization that I have some beef with. I'm talking about Harold Ramirez, Chicago Cubs. My Cubs player to watch who never stepped foot in Wrigley Field. At least he did for the Rays this year, but not for the Cubs. This year he is slashing, or sorry, since June 6th, he's slashing 382, 444, 527 for a 971 OPS and a 184 weighted runs created plus. His average OBP and weighted runs created plus lead the American League over that span. He is currently in the 98th percentile in expected batting average and the 91st percentile in strikeout rate. His 15% fly ball rate on the year ranks the third lowest among the 174 qualifiers, which is great because I talked about him being a contact but no power guy in the players to watch segment before the season. And a 15% fly ball rate is what a guy like that wants. 10.5% of the pitches he's seen this year have been off-speed pitches. That is 3% below league average, and it's pretty easy to see why pitchers are avoiding throwing off-speed pitches to him. His 469 batting average against off-speed pitches leads the 259 hitters with at least 750 total pitches seen, and his 688 slugging percentage ranks 11th. His hard hit rate on off-speed pitches has gone from 28% this year to 48.1% this year. That ranks 15th among the 178 hitters with at least 25 batted balls against off-speed pitches. Just to give you an idea, some of the guys he ranks above in hard hit percentage against off-speed pitches include Giancarlo Stanton, Yordan Alvarez, Vlad Jr., and others. That is Harold Ramirez being above them in a hard contact rate.
Wow. Harold Ramirez.
How about that?
Funniest thing that's happened with players to watch is when you had him as a player to watch, and I mean it was March, and then he got traded.
I think he got DFA'd.
He may, yeah, possibly.
Either way, it's very satisfying to see this as the result because, hey, one of us is right and it's not the Cubs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Should be proud of that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
My player to watch. So I forget what episode it was, but you mentioned the idea of potentially like throwing a curveball at some point and doing a minor league player.
Yes.
So I'm taking a minor leaguer. I don't know if this should cross a team off the list, because like he's not on this team, but I'm doing Will Benson. He's in the Guardians organization. He's on.
I mean, we've already done a Guardian anyway.
Wait, which Guardian have we done?
Owen Miller.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So no worries there.
But yeah, wouldn't cross a team off the list anyway. But Will Benson, he's 24. He's on what's the Columbus team? Columbus.
Clippers, I think.
Clippers. Yeah, he's on the Columbus Clippers. He's in AAA in the Guardians organization in the Independent League. So the story of Will Benson, he was drafted 14th overall by the Cleveland Guardians in the 2016 MLB draft. He was drafted out of high school as an outfielder. He's nowhere to be found in the Guardians' top 30 prospects on MLB.com. However, after not having an OPS above 823 in 6 years of minor league ball, he now has a 928 OPS, and this is in AAA in the Independent League. So at the highest level of minor league baseball, he has a 928 OPS. Out of 91 qualifiers in the Independent League, his 423 on base percentage ranks first. His 19.6% walk rate ranks second. His OPS ranks fourth, and his 151 weighted runs created plus ranks first in the independent league. So weighted runs created plus first in that AAA league, which is half of the AAA teams. It's the independent league and it's the Pacific Coast League. Also, Will Benson's 16 stolen bases are tied for 15th in the league, and he is one of two players in the independent league with 15 plus home runs and 15 plus stolen bases. So, he's not in the top 30, but I think it's just this list hasn't been updated yet this year, and he has literally the highest weighted runs created plus in the independent league this year. So I think he's going to get into that top 30 whenever MLB updates their pipeline. I'm not subscribed to Baseball America, so I can't see where he is there, but Will Benson, outfielder in the Guardians system, getting a
How about that?
Awesome stuff, Chris. Yeah, you did steal my move of the idea of doing a minor league. I guess it can't really be my move if I never did it, but I did suggest it.
It was like the old Facebook where like Mark Zuckerberg was told about the idea and then you just ran with it.
I mean, yeah, how can someone else take credit for it if they didn't do it?
It just
the Guardians.
The time was right.
Yeah, it absolutely was. The Guardians do have a weird thing with MLB pipeline in the top 30 because Stephen Kwan was not in the top 30. And he ended up breaking camp and had some amazing numbers in the minor leagues the previous year, as I alluded to on my players to watch. And he's been one of the better players for them this year, no doubt. But yeah, I do think he'll get to the big league roster and sneakily be good. By the way, Nolan Jones has been performing well for them in the time he's been up.
Yeah.
Just talking about Guardians outfielders, right?
Yeah. Stephen Kwan, yeah, it's funny because he was an outfielder not in the top 30 with a great on-base percentage. And Will Benson is a Guardians outfielder outside of their top 30 who has a great on-base percentage. Like he's a 19.6% walk rate, which is like
tremendous.
That can carry over.
That's like Soto numbers.
Yeah, Soto numbers in AAA. So yeah, I mean, who says he doesn't have, like a 340, 350 on base percentage in the big leagues? That could happen. Especially, and that could go well with his speed. He's on pace for like 30 stolen bases in AAA, or maybe not 30, maybe like 25. I know that season ends in late August. All right, so now we go from the highs to the lows where we're talking players or subjects that have been underperforming for our Tuesday, July 19, 2022 edition of
Slightly alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
We've been alluding to this guy's struggles quite a bit over the last few episodes, but we haven't actually given him the label. I'm talking about Nick Castellanos. Who has just been, there's no other way to put it. He's been awful. His F4 on the season is down to -1. He's lost a full game for the Phillies this year. And since June 1st, he is slashing 239, 273, 301 for a 574 OPS and a 60 weighted runs created plus. That on top of bad defense and base running, which kind of just is a given with him. When he's not hitting, there's just about nothing he can do right. He has 1 home run in the last month and a half, which is that's not what you need. Before the season, he had never had a ground ball rate above 38.9%, and this year it currently sits at 43.1%. So he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot more. His -10.9 run value against breaking balls is the 3rd worst in baseball, and naturally he's seeing breaking balls at a career high rate this season, and it's easy to see why. There is a silver lining though. This is a pretty clear sign that we are closer than ever to achieving world peace.
Yeah, very true. Like
there is a bit of a sacrifice, especially if you're from Philly. It's like, nothing bad has happened. There's definitely been nothing bad happening since June 1st. Don't read the news, but you know what? Nick Castellanos is struggling, so that can only mean that progress is being made.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've just noticed in the past few weeks, gas prices have gone down. I know that's a more minor thing, but that's, a convenience. Um, so that works. I think they were rising the whole time. They were definitely rising when Nick Castellanos
Mhm.
signed that contract.
Yeah.
And yeah. So things I think things can be getting better as Nick Castellanos keeps struggling.
Yeah.
My slightly alarming is it's very similar player on the exact same team. And I will say short sample size alert, but it's Kyle Schwarber. So yeah, short sample size alert,
Hot trigger warning.
trigger warning. Kyle Schwarber, it's a 6 game span, but he's been pretty awful in these 6 games. He is 1 for his last 25 with no walks and 14 strikeouts. He hit a home run in the 6 game span, but his OPS is still 200 in the span. So that's very hard to do. In the span out of 187 qualifiers, his average is 3rd worst. His on base percentage is last. His OPS is 4th worst, and his weighted runs created plus is 3rd worst. And he has struck out more times in the span than anybody. And he has the highest strikeout rate in the 6 game span at 56%. And along with that, out of 268 players with 10 plus batted balls in the span, Schwarber's expected WOBA ranks 7th worst. And, in a 6 game span, you could think, oh, maybe he's facing some amazing pitchers. He's faced one amazing pitcher, but I mean, looking at the pitchers he's faced, the starting pitchers Kyle Schwarber's faced in the 6 game span have been Miles Michaelis, Jose Barrios, Ross Stripling, Sandy Alcantara, Max Meyer, and Trevor Rogers, which you have some good pitchers there, but not a lot of strikeout guys. Like, Sandy Alcantara, he is the midseason Cy Young, but his strikeout rate is below average. So, like, Kyle Schwarber having a 56% strikeout rate, that's slightly alarming. He's been pretty bad in the last 6 games. I guess technically you could say carried over to the home run derby, funnily enough. But yeah, last 6 games, 1 for 25, 14 strikeouts. Looking
Slightly alarming.
All right. Now for a preview of we're
Oh
not
wait, we
gonna-
don't have to preview the week ahead.
Yeah.
We're just done now.
Yeah. I just went into the
Wait. Should we do some All-Star game predictions?
Sure. That'll be our substitute.
All right. I really hope it ends in a tie, man.
Yes, me too.
Wait, if it ends in a tie, who do they count as winning pitcher, losing pitcher? Is it just whoever pitches the 9th? Has to be, right?
I guess. Yeah.
Rip to whoever tries to like score the game. I get history and all that, but man, Clayton Kershaw starting for the National League is tough.
Yeah, it's
Like we all know Sandy deserved it more, but because of all that.
What I will say is at least like Kershaw's still good and it's not completely based on
I was gonna
like, the
say, like
nostalgia.
if Manfred used like his Legends pick to throw Clayton Kershaw in there and they put him on the mound to start the game like they did with like if they had Miguel Cabrera starting at first or Pujols, like that'd be tough.
Yeah.
If they had Pujols starting at first over Goldschmidt, I think he'd forfeit and be like, no, this guy's literally on my team. I've seen him. He's clearly better.
Yeah, like at least Clayton Kershaw is also having an elite season. Even like, Alcantara definitely deserves that starting spot more, but at the very least, you can say like, Kershaw has a 2.13 ERA and a 2.47 FIP this year. So at least there's that, and at least you're gonna probably get a good performance out of him, and he's still like at a very high level while he gets this start.
You want to know my bold prediction for tonight?
Give me it.
I got the Contreras brothers going back to back.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, everyone's gonna just explode when that happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what a bold prediction would be. I don't know who's the most random all-star on this. I'm trying to think.
Gregory Soto.
Gregory Soto.
We have Soto. We have Soto at home. Soto at home.
Such a great tweet. If you haven't seen it, try to find that.
Santiago Espinal. Ian Happ.
Yeah, I'm looking at now I'm looking at the starters. Who is the potential? I'll say Byron Buxton will win All-Star MVP.
Okay.
All-Star game MVP. He'll find a way. He'll probably make a nice catch and have a home run and maybe like another extra base hit.
All right. So I think All-Star Game MVP is going to be one of the guys that's like 25 or younger, because I think we're going to have that narrative at the end of the All-Star week where it's like Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez stole the home run derby. This guy was still the show in the All-Star game, and I think that guy is Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be cool.
I think there's going to be like the future of baseball's in good hands tweet from all the writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my prediction.
Right. Sounds great. Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're following on social media, or no, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Also, follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you. We hope to see you next time, where we're talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.